Imagine waking up tomorrow to a world missing its wild voices. No howls in the forests, no antlers moving through the mist, no flashes of feathers cutting across the sky. What would the landscape look like without the animals we take for granted? What would it mean for the ecosystems they hold together and for us? Let's start with the American bison, once thunderous herds stretching to the horizon. Today, they're carefully managed in parks and preserves, but still a shadow of their former glory. If bison vanished overnight, more than just a national symbol would disappear. Their grazing patterns aerate soil and spread seeds. Without them, prairie grasses would change, bird species would decline, and entire plant communities would collapse. What seems like one missing species would create a ripple that travels miles through time. Next, picture a forest without the red cockaded woodpecker, a tiny bird most people have never seen, but whose presence keeps entire pine ecosystems healthy. These birds carve out nesting cavities in old trees, which later become homes for insects, reptiles, and other birds. Their extinction would silence more than just their own call. It would echo down through the food web, leaving empty holes literally and figuratively in forests across the southeast. Now imagine the rivers of the Pacific Northwest with no Chinook salmon leaping upstream. These fish aren't just a food source for orcas and bears. They're decomposing bodies after spawning in rich forest soil with marine nutrients. That's right, fish that feed trees. Without them, coastal forests would slowly starve of nitrogen. Eagles, otters, seals, and entire ecosystems would suffer the loss of a keystone species tied to both ocean and land. Think about the Florida panther, already clinging to survival. A single outbreak, a road expansion, a bad hurricane season, and they could be gone. Their extinction would mark the loss of the only mountain lion population in the eastern United States. And with it would go a natural predator that keeps wild hogs, deer, and other populations in balance. Without them, overgrazing would increase, ground cover would disappear, and invasive species would likely surge. And what about the monarch butterfly? Beautiful, delicate, and in grave danger. If monarchs vanished, it wouldn't just be a poetic loss. They are vital pollinators, and their incredible migration supports hundreds of plant species across North America. More than that, they represent environmental signals. Their disappearance would mean something deeper is failing in our climate, our agriculture, and our air. Let's shift to the desert. The desert tortoise might seem slow and unremarkable, but it shapes the southwestern ecosystem by digging burrows that shelter hundreds of other animals. Its extinction would collapse an entire subterranean world. Owls, lizards, insects, even small mammals depend on the microhabitats tortoises create. It's like removing the architect of the desert. Now travel north to Alaska, where the sea otter patrols kelp forests. If sea otters disappeared, the consequences would be swift and dramatic. Sea urchins, no longer kept in check, would devour the kelp forest's nurseries for fish, carbon sinks for the atmosphere, and coastal buffers against storms. The ocean would become less stable, less diverse, and far more vulnerable. In the Appalachians, we'd lose the hellbender salamander, a giant, secretive amphibian that thrives in pristine water. They are living indicators of stream health. If they disappeared tomorrow, it would be a siren call that our cleanest rivers are failing. Fewer hellbenders means more pollution, more algal blooms, and fewer fish that depend on clear, cold water. How about the gopher tortoise of the southeast? Like the desert tortoise, it digs burrows that serve as refuges for over 350 other species. Losing the gopher tortoise would mean a massive blow to biodiversity, especially in regions already struggling with habitat loss. Animals like snakes, frogs, and even burrowing owls would be left without homes. Let's not forget the gray wolf, a predator often misunderstood, but essential to wild ecosystems. In Yellowstone, the reintroduction of wolves changed the course of rivers literally. Their hunting pressure on elk allowed overbrowsed trees to recover, stabilizing stream banks and bringing back beavers, songbirds, and insects. Without wolves, that balance collapses. Prey species explode. Vegetation disappears. streams erode, and wild landscapes become silent and empty. If wolves disappeared again, it wouldn't be a triumph of human control. It would be a signal of imbalance we can't fix with fences or policies. Now think about the California condor, the largest flying bird in North America. A majestic glider with a 9-foot wingspan and a face like ancient wisdom. If they vanished, the skies of the West would lose more than a bird. Condors clean the landscape, feeding on carrion and preventing disease. Their extinction would mean more rotting carcasses, more risk of zoonotic disease, and a vanished link to the wild past. Every one of these species is part of a larger puzzle. They don't just occupy space, they shape it. They hold soil in place. They cycle nutrients, they feed predators, they pollinate plants. They give us clean water, better air, and a connection to something bigger than ourselves. And while it may seem dramatic to imagine them all disappearing overnight, the truth is we are already losing them. Slowly, quietly, one habitat at a time. One season without enough rain, one oil spill, one unchecked disease. Extinction doesn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes it comes with silence, a nesting site not returned to, a migration that never happens, a baby born into a world that no longer fits it. If these animals went extinct tomorrow, the damage wouldn't just be ecological. It would be emotional, spiritual, generational. Future children would learn about wolves and panthers and salmon from holograms or textbooks, not from real encounters under open skies. We would lose the lessons they teach us about resilience, balance, and how to live in harmony with something wilder than ourselves. But it's not too late. Many of these species are still here, hanging on through the efforts of conservationists, local communities, indigenous stewards, and ordinary people who care enough to plant milkweed or stop for wildlife crossings. The question isn't just what if they went extinct tomorrow. The real question is, what can we do today to make sure they're still here tomorrow? Because when we protect them, we protect more than an animal. We protect the threads that hold our own lives together. And in that way, saving them might just be the smartest thing we ever do.